Hello. In this video, I want to talk about the use of stories in program planning and evaluation. In recent years, the field of evaluation has been looking for ways into how to make evaluations more impactful. Um, in our definition of evaluation, we talked about the use of or the application of social research methods. And so evaluation results, evaluation reports sometimes can be very technical. They appear like technical, papers in academic journals. But evaluators began questioning the impact of those evaluations, right? Who can read and understand those reports? Are we writing evaluations just for scientists? Are we writing evaluations for the general public, right? So evaluators began thinking about different and creative ways to share the results of evaluations and the impact of programs. And one of those ways, one of the ways that humans have transmitted knowledge and explained the world to their children or to their peers is through stories. So that began a new field or a subfield in the evaluation and planning world about how do we tell stories about how do we tell the story of a program? How do we tell the story of a problem, right? How do we tell the story of participants or of community members so that the public can understand the problem and can understand the program, right? So the ultimate goal of evaluation, of course, is social betterment. And, if you want to make the world a better place in a democratic society where there's many, competing programs and competing interests, then, evaluation studies that are very technical and hard to understand can sort of defeat the purpose of that. If it's only accessible to a few people who understand advanced statistics, then the evaluation really doesn't do a lot, right? So, since the beginning of civilization, stories have been used as an effective communication tool. So, and since the beginning of humanity, this is, and so stories can be so effective because people understand stories, they connect with stories, and they remember the message of these stories in a way that they may not remember a lecture, let's say, or reading a technical report. So evaluators have begun to use stories to explain or describe a social problem, right? This is in the problem and in the program planning aspect of it, right? If you want to explain the problem to somebody, you can use stories for that. Or also explain how a program works, how a program was created, right? That usually is the story of the founder. It's an inspiring story of the founder and how the program came to be alive. Also, stories of participants that can explain how the program works, or explain how the program was implemented, maybe through the eyes of the story of somebody that works for the program. Or, and this is one of the most important ones, a story that describes the program impact, right? So these are just some examples of how stories can be used to transmit the knowledge or the message about what the problem is or what the program does or what participants go through when they go through the program. So, but how do we tell stories, right? What makes a good story? So, Jerome Bruner he said he was a great social scientist, and he said, you know, in contrast to our vast knowledge of how science and logical reasoning proceed, we know very little, right, in any formal sense about how to make good stories, right? So we know a lot about science and how the world works, and, you know, chemistry and physics and all that, but we don't know much about what makes a good story. There is not a lot of, or what makes a good storyteller for that matter. So there is an emerging field now dedicated to study the science of storytelling. Like, what is it that makes stories so powerful for humans? This emerging field has produced, you know, some results already in the last, and this is very new. This is like in the last 10 years or so. So far, where the field is, right? The science of storytelling says that right now there are 6 characteristics that make a good story, right? The first one is that stories have a very well-defined structure. 2, that they evoke some emotion, right? 3, that they surprise the listener. They achieve narrative transportation, right? That means that the listener sort of, for a moment, is immersed in the story, you know, and they forget their reality for now, and they're just, their imagination is already in a different place. They leave spaces, right, in the story that leave, you know, room for for them to be filled with the imaginations of the listener's imagination. And they have something that connects to the person, some verisimilitude, right? And that means that it could be the situation or the setting or something that the listener can relate to and can think of, yeah, this could happen to me, right? That this could be true. Even if it's a fiction story, they say, oh, I can relate to that situation. This could happen to me or someone I know, right? So these are the 6 characteristics of a good story. And we're gonna go over each of them. But in this little introductory video, I just wanted to you know, make the point that, well, this is not a storytelling class, but I want you to understand that stories can be extremely powerful, and to communicate even more so than, well, almost always more so than a technical report full of numbers and tables. And if you can master this skill of storytelling, you can make your work very powerful. So I invite you to watch the next video on what is it that makes a story great in detail. It'll be fun. See you in the next video.